In today's video, we're going to be creating some cinematic titles. The great thing is, if you follow along, you're going to learn how to stylize these titles so that if you want to create your own in the future, you'll have the foundation to be able to add the cinematic style onto any title that you do. Now, if you want the project file and the animated versions of these titles here, that is only going to be available in our program and community. At the current moment, our program and community is closed, but I am hosting a free workshop on May 26th for anyone to join. If you're a struggling editor trying to unlock your advanced editing techniques to do animations like Ali Abdal, Dan Coe, Iman Ghazi, Vox Style, whatever it is, and you're struggling to land high-paying clients, then this workshop is for you. As an editor, you can be making anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 per client. But right now what's happening is there's a flood in the market of editors all trying to do the same exact thing. They're all trying to edit short-form content for creators, which is leading to a flood in the market and everybody just accepting any sort of work, even if they are getting underpaid. So if you want to learn how to become a high-paid leverage editor, then in this workshop, I'm going to show you the 3 steps I took myself to go from a okay average editor who didn't know any of the advanced editing techniques and styles out there to unlocking my ability to do so, and then to landing my first $5,000 a month client, and then from there, scaling my content agency to $30,000 a month. So I'm going to be showing you these exact steps in this free workshop. Seats will be limited as we don't want too many people to join. So make sure that you click the link in the description and reserve your spot right now, as you do not want to miss out on this, as we may never have this free workshop again. And for those that do attend, there's going to be an exclusive offer within the workshop. This offer and surprise that we're going to be giving to you is never going to happen again, so make sure that you're in it. With that, let's get into this tutorial. Alrighty, we're going to be starting off with the first scene here. You should have a new composition, just a 1080 by 1920 composition here, and then just hit OK. Also, if you want the animated versions of these titles, these are only available for the people who are in the Leverage Editor program and community. Now, if you want to join that community and get these assets along with a slew of other things, then make sure you join that free workshop that's coming up on the 26th, because there's going to be an exclusive offer to be able to get into the program and community. That exclusive offer is only going to be available in that free workshop, and you're also going to learn a ton from the free workshop. We're going to be working on scene 1 first, and then we'll work on the other scene. So the first thing that we actually want to do is a new solid. Doesn't matter really what color, you're just going to hit OK. I'm going to throw on a gradient ramp. So as soon as you throw on the gradient ramp, the effect here, you will see this. We're going to change it to a radial ramp. And then you can see that there's these little dots here. If I drag this one to the middle, it's going to bring that color to the middle. And this one, I'm going to change the white to a very dark gray, pretty much black. And then I'm going to change the start color here to a light gray or light black here. Something like that. You can copy the color codes if you're following along. From here, what I'm going to do is go up to my shape tool and I'm going to go to the ellipse tool. I'm going to create an ellipse just like this. We can bring it down a little bit, probably right about here. And then what we can also do is take this gradient ramp, Command C that, Control C on PC, and Command V it with that other shape that we just made. And now we just need to switch around the actual gradients, or what we can do here is the start color can be definitely a little bit lighter. And then the end color will make that just a tad bit lighter. And then we just want to take these things here. We don't want it to be a radial ramp. We want it to be a linear ramp. And then we're going to take these anchor points here and adjust it accordingly. So we want it darker at the bottom here and a little bit lighter towards the top. Something like that. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to move this down just a little bit more. You can also duplicate this. So I'm going to hit Command D. I'm going to drag it up and we can rotate this by 180 degrees. Just turning it over, drag it back down. And then what we can do here is just change the gradient anchor points. So we want this light one to be at the bottom here and then the dark one to be at the top. Click on the one on the bottom, the layer on the bottom. I have this plugin called Motion Tools. If you do not have this plugin, definitely recommend getting it as it's free. All this is going to do is align the anchor point in the middle of this ellipse that we made. So I'm going to click this button. If you don't have that, you can manually adjust the anchor point if you want. But now that's in the middle, what I can do is go to align and then go align horizontally. Same for this one. I'm going to put that anchor point in the middle, go to align horizontally, and it's just going to put these perfectly centered how we want. From here, I'm going to make some text. So the font I'm using is Europa Grotesque. Once again, if you want the assets, this is going to be available in our program and community. So make sure you're in that workshop to be able to get an exclusive offer on joining. Just going to change the color to white and scale it down just a little bit. What I'm going to do is also center the anchor point, and then we can line that horizontally and also line it vertically. So it's going to place it perfectly in the middle here. From here, I'm just going to duplicate that text layer, drag it down, and then I'm just going to type some filler text here. Of course, you could type whatever you want. From here, we're going to change the font to Rebond. Once again, you can find this online if you need to. We're going to do Rebond Grotesque Thin. S on the keyboard here and just scaling that down. And we want to position it right. Nice. So from here, we're going to hit Command D, drag this down while holding shift. It's going to keep it perfectly aligned vertically. If I hold down shift while dragging it, place it down here. I'm just going to put some filler text in. You can type whatever you want. Going to Command D that, duplicate, move this off to the left while holding shift. It's going to keep it on that horizontal plane. Then we can Command D it again, move this one to the right. And then I'm just going to change the actual text here. Command D this bigger text one more time, move this up right about here. And then I'm just going to have some filler text in here as well. I'm really going to scale this one down as I don't want it to be the main focal point. I'm also going to move this a little bit more in the middle, just like that. Then what we can also do is create a little box around it. So I'm going to go up to my shape layers. I'm going to do rounded rectangle tool. With that, I'm just going to click and drag. Doesn't have to be perfect yet. So something like that. We're going to get rid of the fill. We're going to change the stroke to a white color. And we're going to make this 2. Keep that line pretty thin. And then in the contents, in the drop down menu of the shape that we just made, you're going to go to contents, rectangle path. We're going to up that roundness quite a bit. And then for the stroke, we're going to drop that down and we're going to do dashes here. For the dashes, we're going to make this 15. From here, we're also going to want to center this in the middle. So I'm going to hit the line, the anchor point in the middle. And then we're going to go over to our align window and click align vertically and align horizontally. That's going to put it perfectly in the middle. That's looking pretty good. One thing I'm actually going to do is change the stroke to 1. It's a little too thick in my opinion. All right, it's looking a lot better. All right, so now that we have the first scene built out, we're going to add what I like to call the icing on the cake. This is going to really tie in the look of everything. And we're also going to be using the stylization effects on all the other scenes that we're going to make. So this is really important that you watch this because we're just going to be copying and pasting the effects that we're just about to do right here. So first thing we're going to do is a new adjustment layer. We're going to change the name of this to grain. And then of course what we're going to throw on it is a grain. So once you throw that grain on it, what you want to do is change it to final output as the viewing mode. We're going to do the size as 0.5 and then go to color. Make sure you check off monochromatic. We're going to go to animation and then change the animation speed to 0.5. Okay, that's already starting to get the look that we want. We're going to then toss on another adjustment layer. We're going to rename this one to vignette. And of course, this is what we're going to throw on it is a vignette. Once you got the vignette, I'm just going to up the settings a little bit, change the amount, and change the angle view up a little bit. You get to copy these numbers as you're following along, and this should look pretty good. From here, we're going to toss on another adjustment layer. This is going to be our posterized time adjustment layer. So what this is going to do is really give it that motion graphic, I don't know, that jittery feel to it, which just ties it in together. So what we're going to search up here is, of course, posterized time. We're going to change the frame rate to 12. Okay, so there's a couple things that we need to do. The first thing, we're going to go over to the cinematic text, make sure that's highlighted. I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate. The one on the bottom, I'm going to throw on a deep glow effect. Now, if you don't have deep glow, you can use the regular After Effects glow effect and you should be able to get something similar to the glow that we have right here, but it's just a little bit harder. I recommend using deep glow. It costs a little bit of money, but it's one of the best effects out there and really gets a nice glow for you. So if you have the money, get it. Not just use After Effects regular glow effect. All right, so a couple settings we want to change on this is just turning down that exposure a little bit and the radius as well. All right, so now that we have that good deep glow effect, I'm going to copy this, Command C. I'm going to paste it onto all of our other text. Then we could also paste it onto that shape layer that we made. And if you want, you can adjust, the exposure of it a little bit on some of the text if it's too much. It's looking really good. There's one more adjustment layer that we're going to toss onto this. We're going to rename it to brightness control. And then what we're going to throw on this is a brightness and contrast. You're going to go over to the brightness keyframe. I'm going to hold down Option on a Mac. It's going to be Control on a PC. You're going to click the keyframe of brightness. That's going to open up our expressions window here. All we need to type in is wiggle. And then we're going to do 4 by 30. So 4,30. And that's just going to have that nice flickering effect that we want. One thing to note, the posterized time, you want to keep that adjustment layer on the top. It's going to tie in all the effects. Cool. So everything's looking pretty good. We're going to move on to the next scene here. So I'm just going to do a new composition. This one's going to be kind of similar to the last one. So we're going to do a new solid here. Just hit OK. Gonna go to gradient ramp. We're gonna toss that on there. Change the setting to radial ramp. We're gonna take this anchor point, put it in the middle. We're gonna change the end color to, we're gonna keep it light gray like this. And then we can change that start color to like almost a full on black. So it looks something like this. Maybe change that gray a little bit lighter. And then we can adjust the anchor point on that black here. It should look like something like this. From here, I'm going to go to the shape tool and click on star tool. I'm going to click and drag while holding shift. It's going to make a perfect size star for us. We're going to change the stroke to none. And we're going to just fill it in. You can fill in with whatever color. I'm just going to do white for now. I'm going to, using motion tools, I'm going to put the anchor point in the middle here. And then I'm going to go to my align window, align it horizontally, and then align it vertically. In the contents, we're going to drop that down. We're going to drop down the polystar. We're going to go polystar path, and amount of points, we're going to change that to 8. And then the inner radius, we're going to just scale that down a little bit to around 125. From here, I'm going to throw on a gradient ramp. We're going to take this anchor point, put in the middle here. We're going to change it to radial ramp, and we're going to make the end color just like a light gray here. And then that middle color, kind of want a little less of that dark. So I'm just going to put this in a little bit more. And we can change that start color to lighter gray here, or lighter black. It's looking pretty good. Gonna take my text tool and just type in cinematic. Of course, you could type in whatever you want. I'm gonna scale this way up. I'm gonna change this to Europa Grotesque. Gonna anchor point it in the middle and then align it horizontally and line it vertically. This, we also want to make sure it's still aligned vertically. There we go. I'm gonna scale it down just a little bit more. It's a little too big. And then realign it. I'm going to scale up the star just a tad bit, just like that. And make sure it's realigned here. Every time you adjust it, you kind of have to realign it. All right, so now I have my text here. I'm just going to hit Command D to duplicate it. Bring this down while holding Shift. I'm going to put the size way down, and I'm just going to add some filler text here. Of course, you can add whatever you want. All right, so I typed in my text here, but we need to adjust the distance. So I'm in my text window. You'll see this option here. If the distance is messed up, you can control the amount of pixels between the lines here. So that's pretty good. Now I'm just gonna move it up, place it in there where we want. Not looking bad. One thing I'm gonna do is get my pen tool here. Make sure nothing is selected in your timeline. And we're gonna create a new pen shape. I'm just gonna click, make like a little loop here and drag it across. Something like that. We're gonna undo the fill, so no fill. And then we're gonna make the stroke white and keep it at 1 pixel. I'm going to do the exact same thing, but going in the opposite direction. I'm going to put a loop here if I can. Something like that. Should be the same kind of stroke width. And then what we want to do with both of these shape layers is just drop down to where you see shape, and then you'll go to stroke. We're going to change it to dash. So you're going to hit the plus on that. I'm going to change the dashes to 15. And that should look a lot better. And we're going to do the exact same thing for this other layer. So content, shape, stroke, dashes, plus, and then 15 here. Cool. From here, what we can do is add the glow to the cinematic and then the text. So I'm just going to go back to our first layer here and find that exact glow effect that we like. So it's this deep glow. I'm going to copy that, Command C. I'm going to add it to cinematic here. I'm also going to duplicate it and then delete the deep glow on the duplicated layer that's on top. We can toss on the deep glow to the text. I'm gonna bring that down to 0.11 as far as the exposure. That should be good. And then we can copy this deep glow and put it on both those shape layers that we made. From here, I'm gonna go back to my first scene that we made, and we're just gonna copy all of these adjustment layers. So Command C, gonna go over to the title type, gonna go over to this one, and then gonna Command V. Now the most important thing is, for some reason the naming of it never shows up, but you want to make sure that posterized time is the adjustment layer above everything, okay? And then you want to make sure brightness is the second one under posterized time, and then should be grain. Well, vignette should actually be second, and then brightness and contrast, and then grain. That'll get the desired effect that we're going for. So the star itself isn't looking exactly how I want it to look. So what I'm going to do here is go to the gradient ramp. I want more black in the middle here. So I'm going to take this, make it a little bit brighter, but I'm going to take this and move it way out. All right, so I want the star to look like this, and I'm going to re-highlight everything and then see. That's exactly how I want it. Yeah, so it looks a little bit better. What we can do too for these shape layers is hit T on a keyboard and just turn down the opacity to like 50%. Make it a little less visible there. We can also put this behind the star And then what we can do with this star layer is duplicate it. The one on the bottom, we can change the color to more of a white for the start. And then what I'm going to do is throw a deep glow on it. And then we're going to turn down the exposure quite a bit. Something like that. And then the cinematic, so the one that's on top, what I'm going to do is change the blend mode to difference. That's going to get a cool little effect for us. You could do the same thing for the text below if you want. However you want to do it. Kind of looks better like this, to be honest. But yeah, so that's our other scene here. So now we're going to move on to the next scene. I'm just going to create a new composition, title it. Okay, so for this one, we're going to do a new solid. We're going to change the solid to this like greenish blue kind of and a little bit dark. So around there, copy this color code if you're following along and then just hit OK. OK, one more time. From here, what I'm going to do is toss on a paper texture. Once again, if you want this is available in our program. Once this is tossed on, we're going to change the blend mode to overlay. I'm going to hit T on my keyboard and just turn down that opacity quite a bit. So it's around like 25%. Looks pretty good. From here, what I'm going to do is right click, new adjustment layer. On this adjustment layer, we're going to throw on the grid effect. With this, we're going to change the blend mode to add. We're going to change the border size to 2. And then we're just going to adjust the cornering to add a little bit more of a grid on there. So just like that should be pretty good. From here, what I'm going to do is click my pen tool. Make sure nothing is highlighted because I want to create a new shape here. I'm going to click on one spot here, click once, and then click over here. So I want it to cut through and align with this point over here. We're going to change the stroke to 6. And then for the grid, we're actually going to change this to a stroke of 4 with the border width of 4. Next thing to do is create another shape layer we go from right here, going over to this one over here. So I'm going to adjust it so it's going through that path. It's looking good. We're just going to create a couple more shape layers to make some of these lines a little more thick. So I'm going to click right here, hold down shift, click right there. It's just going to make some lines thick. We're going to do one horizontally. All right, not looking bad. So what we're going to do from here is go to our text tool. I'm going to type in the title here so you can type whatever you like. We're going to use the font Rebond Grotesque, and we're going to do bold here. I'm going to change the fill color to more of a grayish black here. Copy this color code if you're following along. Hit OK. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. Something like that. And then what we can do is duplicate it. Just make some more text. Just like that. Now I'm going to highlight all these and just place them in the middle. From here, I'm going to toss on this paper texture I have. You can find this online by searching up paper texture or just come into our community and you'll be able to get this along with all the other assets here. So what I'm going to do is bring this paper texture behind our text. And while this is highlighted in our timeline, I'm going to go over to my pen tool and we're just going to make a rectangle around cinematic. Something like that should look good. I'm going to duplicate this paper texture here. I'm going to put it above cinematic. So the next thing it should be under is title. I'm going to hit M on my keyboard. That's going to bring up the mask options here. And I'm going to delete that. And then from there, I'm just going to do a new rectangle over title. So we're going to be repeating this process for all the other text here. I'll speed this part up. Cool, so now that we have that done, what we can do is just kind of separate them a little bit. So the title text here needs to separate to make it look a little bit better. Same with the After Effects one, just like that. What you can do from here is pre-compose each one. Now it's all pre-composed. I'm going to add one more little effect here or one more shape layer. So go up to your pen tool, click on that. We're going to do a nice little circle around cinematic. All right, so we're going to change the stroke to 3, and I'm going to change the color to this red that I like here. Hit OK, and then we're going to add some dashes to it. So drop down contents, go to shape, stroke, click plus for dashes, and I'm going to change this to 15. From there, we can just position it over. I'm going to up the stroke a little bit more, change the dashes up a little bit more as well. And then I'm going to scale it down. Well, that should be pretty good. And I'm going to do one more shape for under After Effects. So make sure nothing is highlighted in the layers here. And we're going to go over to our pen tool. I'm just going to click and drag right here under After Effects. Make a little loop at the end here. And then we're going to add some dashes to it. So drop down contents, shape, stroke, click plus for dashes. And we're going to keep this at 15. Awesome. So now it's time to add the finishing touches, the icing on the cake. So the first thing that we want to adjust here is the actual grid that we have. So go over to your grid layer here, and I'm going to look up turbulent displace in the effects. Put that on there. We're going to change the amount to 20 and then the size to 4. And that's looking pretty good. I'm just going to up that amount a little bit to get a little more jitteriness in it. So we could go 31 here. Now that we have this, I can copy it. So Command C. We're going to copy that over to all the other shapes that we made as far as the line. So I'm going to Command V that on there. It's going to make it pretty jaggedy, just like we like, just like how we want it. It's looking good. You can also experiment with the actual title itself if you want it jaggedy. But I think it looks pretty good for now. Now that we have this, we're going to do an adjustment layer here. New adjustment layer. On this adjustment layer, we're going to toss on a Gaussian blur. We're going to up that blurriness. We can do around 15 here. With that, while this layer is selected, we're going to go over to our ellipse tool and we're going to make a circle. So just over the text here. From there, we're going to change the mask from add to subtract. And then we're going to drop down the mask settings and go over to mask feather and up that by quite a bit. So we're right around 434. That's going to give us a nice little focus point effect here. From here, I'm going to do another adjustment layer. So new adjustment layer. I'm going to toss on a VR digital glitch. Toss that on there. So it's going to look pretty crazy. There's just a couple of settings that we need to fix up here. So go to distortion. We're going to do the geometry distortion X, turn that to 0. Same with the distortion complexity. We're going to change that all the way to 1. And then the distortion rate, we're going to put that at 0. And then we can change the color to distortion to 15. See how that looks. Looks pretty good. Maybe we'll do like 12. Perfect. From here, we're going to go back to our first scene that we made and copy all those adjustment layers and then hit Command V. Make sure we put them at the top. And then from here, we just want to fix things up a little bit. So the posterized time needs to be on top. The vignette can be under the posterized time. But what I'm going to do is turn down the vignette here. It's a little too much for my liking. Grain's good. Brightness and contrast is good. So everything looks good. This is how it should look. All right, so we're going to move on to our last scene, which is the coolest one in my opinion. So we're going to do a new composition, title it. Okay, so in this composition, we're going to do a new solid here. We're going to change this to black. I mean, I guess the color doesn't really matter. Once we have that, we're going to toss on that gradient ramp. We're going to change the end color to more of a darker gray here. So something like that. Then hit OK. So as it is right now, it's actually fine. From here, we're going to go over to our pen tool, make sure nothing's selected, and we're going to make like a little kind of hill here, just like this. We're going to change the stroke to none, and then we're going to change the fill to a black. We're going to toss on this gradient ramp. So we're going to Command C this from the background layer, Command V it onto that shape layer that we just made. And then we're going to switch the anchor points here. So I'm going to drag this one to the bottom and this one to the top here. It's going to look something like this. From here, we're going to make the little building or church here that's on the side. To do this, I'm going to go over to my rectangle tool. Going to make a little kind of a square, but more of a rectangle here, just like this. Kind of position that up a little bit, maybe make it a little bit smaller, just like that. Now from here, what I'm going to do is make another rectangle, and this is going to be the chimney, so to speak. Put it on there just like that. Looks pretty good. We're going to do another shape layer, make sure nothing's selected, and we're going to do a triangle at the top here. Now it's going to be hard to see, but I'm going to do another shape layer that's also going to be a triangle. I'm going to click once right here, click on this corner over here, click down here, and then hold down Shift to make a straight line and click, follow the edges here. We're also going to do a little doorway here. So I'm going to click once over here, hold down Shift, click again, click up here, and then hold down Shift to make a curved line while dragging to the right. And then we're going to click down here and hold down Shift to make a straight line, and then hold down Shift again to make another straight line. And that's going to be our doorway. From here, what we can do is start adding that gradient ramp to everything. So I'm going to go over to our building here. I'm going to toss on a gradient ramp. We're going to change this to more of a darker gray. Hit OK, and then we're going to find those anchor points and just adjust them. Just like that. Then we could copy this gradient ramp, so Command C, and then toss it onto the other things, and then just adjust the gradient how you see fit, just to show that like these things are individualized, like it's building out that building here. So we're going to keep on copying this and then paste it onto the different shapes that we have here. I'm going to make one more shape layer here, and that's going to be like a little, what would you call it? A little overhead thing for the building. And then we can toss that gradient ramp on there and then adjust the anchor points how we see fit here. I'm going to do another shape layer, go over here, just kind of fill in this area, put that behind everything here. And then we'll toss a gradient on it as well, and then adjust how we see fit. So that's our little church that we made. We're going to highlight all those shapes and then put it behind this land that we made here. Can even drag it up a little bit. All right, from here, I'm going to go to my text tool and then just type in title here. Obviously, you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to change the font here to Apple Garamond. We're going to do Apple Garamond Light Regular. I'm going to change the color here to a very light blue/white here and hit OK. I'm going to scale this way up. I'm actually going to change this to cinematic. I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to change this to title effect. Scale this down. Shouldn't do this. Title, really scale this up. So this text that's on the bottom, we're going to scale that down. We want it to fit the same width as the text on top. Add some text on the top. We're going to scale that down a lot. One thing would be pretty cool is if in this church here, this was actually white. So I'm going to click on this and then change this to white. And we're going to make a little glow effect with it, which I think would be pretty cool. But what we also can do to make that glow effect a little bit better is toss on a Gaussian blur. With this, we're going to uncheck the repeat edge pixels, and we're going to toss up that Gaussian blurriness a little bit by 6% here. Should be good. From here, what we can do is another shape layer. I'm going to click once here and then go over here, kind of make a little thing like this. We're going to want this straight, just like that. We're going to toss on that Gaussian blur as well, and then uncheck repeat edge pixels and turn it up to 6. Maybe a little bit more. Something like that's going to be cool. So for the title text, we're going to add that deep glow onto it. Figure out, turn down the exposure a little in the radius. I'm going to duplicate the title, and then the one that's on top, I'm just going to delete that deep glow. It's just going to make the edges on the text a little bit more visible. So we could copy this deep glow effect, Command C, paste it onto the cinematic text, duplicate it, and then delete the deep glow. And then we can toss it onto that text at the top. I'm just going to turn down that exposure to 0.11. It should be good. From here, we're going to go to our very first title that we made, and we're going to copy the adjustment layers that we made, and we're going to paste them into here. We want to put the posterized time on top. The vignette under the posterized time should be good. I'm going to go over to this little layer that we made here, hit T on my keyboard, and really turn down the opacity of it. We're going to turn it down to 20%, and I'm going to up that Gaussian blur even more on it. For the actual doorway, we also are going to turn that down a little bit. It's just a little too bright in my opinion, so I'm going to hit T on my keyboard. Turn down that opacity. 75% should be good. And there we have it. There's our final scene. All right, so once again, if you want the animated versions like this one here, make sure to join our workshop, as you're going to get exclusive offer at the end of our workshop to be able to go into our program, which is going to have all the asset files to this project here. With that, I'll see you in the next tutorial.